Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinar series. Our topic for today's session is careers in capital markets, and we have with us Mr. H. Jaishankar. He is the Director of Finitives Learning India Private Limited. He joined ANZ Grindlays through campus placement at IIM Bangalore and moved on to Citibank and then to Deutsche Bank as Head of Foreign Exchange and Short-Term Derivatives Trading for India. It's a pleasure to have you, Jay, today for this session. Before handing over the session to you, this is a quick thing for all the attendees today. Jay will be giving the presentation for around 20 or 25 minutes, and all the attendees, please feel free to send in questions throughout the session. We will, however, open up the Q&A session probably for the last 20-25 odd minutes today. So in order to make it interactive, please feel free to start sending questions maybe 10 minutes while we are into the session. So without any further delay, I'll hand over the session to Jay. Over to you, Jay.
Thanks a lot, Vilagna. Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to this webinar on careers in capital markets. I hope all of you are able to see my PPT. You know, when I look at capital markets today, I personally believe it is the most exciting field today. Now there are a few reasons for it. You know, there are times when I feel that, you know, I wish that I had started my career probably today and not 20 years ago. Now, why do I say capital markets is an extremely exciting field today? The first is, of course, as you all know, the global markets have got integrated, which means that if the governor of the Federal Reserve, you know, catches a cold, it affects the Indian stock markets. So it's not only factors that affect India, but you need to look at factors affecting Europe, factors affecting the US, factors affecting Japan. So it's a whole load of factors that move capital markets today. What's the second reason? All of you, if you've been reading the financial newspapers, which is a good habit, right, is a high degree of volatility and uncertainty. Right? If you've seen the markets in the last few months, if you talk about, let's say, the dollar INR exchange rate, you may know that it touched a high of 68.75. Now it's back to 61.50, and nobody knows where it's going to go next. And then if you look at the Nifty and the Sensex, that's also been yo-yoing for the past, you know, couple of months. And of course, if you were to ask somebody, okay, where do you think the Nifty is going to go or the Sensex is going to go? Right, so there'll be 10 guys who will say that, yeah, I think it's going to touch 6,500 by the end of the year. And I'm sure there are 10 other people who say that it will go down to 5,600 by the end of the year. So that's what the exciting part is all about. You know, so it's uncertain, it's volatile, right? So that's the second feature of capital markets. The third, you know, which is actually a business opportunity for people who are pursuing a career in capital markets, is the level of financial illiteracy, as I would like to call it, in this area. Right? Everybody believes, of course, that, you know, yeah, I understand the stock market, I know what's going up and down, but hey, come on. You know, even experts don't know where it's going. So anybody who says that, yeah, I've mastered this area of capital markets is obviously fooling himself or herself. So there is a limited level of financial literacy in this area, which means that there is a crying need for people who can give good advice. So that's a business opportunity, which is what a lot of the capital market firms are getting into as well. And last but not the least, right, it's a glamorous area and it catches the news, you know, most of the time for, it could be for good reasons, it could be for bad reasons. Right, you must have read the newspapers, you know, you've heard the NSCL crisis that's going on, and you've heard a large scale set of frauds that have taken place. You know, some time ago there was a guy called Nick Leeson, then you had a guy called Jerome Kerviel, then there is the most recent one is the London whale. right? These people have been playing havoc with the capital markets. So to that extent, it's notorious, so to speak. It's not glamorous, but a little notorious. So people who are getting into this area need to be careful as well. And I would say responsible when they pursue their careers. Okay, moving on. So I would really define this as a extremely aspirational and a rewarding career, which is why, you know, if you talk to anybody today, okay, what kind of a job are you looking for? You know, 9 out of 10 guys would say that, yeah, I'm looking at capital markets, investment banking, right? These are the two broad areas that come top of mind. So it remains aspirational, which also means that it's that much more tougher to get into this area. Okay, given this background, let me take a step back and explain to you what capital markets really means, right? As the term suggests, it's obviously a mode of raising capital. So when people loosely use the term capital markets, they are really talking about equities and fixed income markets. Okay, fixed income markets are like your bond markets. So it's really equities and bonds which comprise what are called capital markets. They're also internationally called securities markets because they're actually physical securities that support this. Okay, so you have equities and fixed income. Now if you were to use a broader term, right, the broader term is actually financial markets. So when I use the term financial markets, then I mean equities, bonds, currencies, commodities, as well as what people call structured products, which, you know, things like derivatives and other complicated structured products all fall under the gambit of financial markets. But here we are focusing our talk in the area of capital markets. The next thing I want to do is classify capital markets into two broad areas, and the reason I'm doing that is even your career opportunities or your roles could actually get broken up into these areas. So the first is, of course, the primary markets, right? Some of you may know, right? Primary markets is the market where the instrument first comes into existence. So this is the market where the capital is actually raised, right? You must have heard of terms like IPOs, right? Initial public offering, FPOs, QIPs. It's not restricted only to equities, okay? If people raise money issuing bonds, you have commercial paper, certificates of deposit. Right? I'm not getting into the details here, but what I'm trying to tell you is that it's a huge, huge area, broadly called issue management or merchant banking. Okay. Now, when I look at bond issuances and commercial paper issuances, these relate to raising money in the form of debt. And this typically is done by banks. So a lot of banks have a division called debt capital markets or DCM, which focuses on a lot of these bond issuances. Okay, and then of course you have capital market firms who help you manage your IPOs and FPOs and QIPs and so on and so forth. So that's a huge area in itself which relates to activities in the primary markets, and as I said, it's called merchant banking or issue management. Then of course you have the secondary markets. So what happens in secondary markets? Once the instrument obviously comes into existence in the primary markets, you have the secondary markets where the actual transactions take place. So here if I were to classify the careers, right, you have three broad areas. One is the trading area, the second is sales, and third is research. So you can broadly put all the roles offered by capital market firms into these three categories, which is trading, sales, and research. Now let's take a look at who are the big market players in this area, right? You obviously need to know which are the firms that are either recruiting or where you could go and apply, right? So I'm giving you a flavor of the large market players in each of these areas. So in the primary market space, which is your merchant banking and issue management space, you have people like Edelweiss, you have people like ICICI Securities, Motilal Oswal, Citi Securities, Deutsche Bank Securities. Okay, now these are all, the reason I'm calling it Citibank Securities or Deutsche Bank Securities is it's not the bank which offers these activities. They set up a separate subsidiary, which is Citi Securities or Deutsche Bank Securities, which offer these services. So hey, you have a lot of these guys who offer these services, and career options are available to you here. When I look at the secondary markets, I'm first looking at people who offer trading and sales activities, and of course offer some research as well. These people are also called full service firms. The reason I'm calling full services, they not only offer you advisory services, which means tell you which stock or bond to buy, but they also help you execute those services. So here, of course, you have players like Angel Broking, India Infoline, Geojit, HDFC Securities, and a whole load of people. So there are a large section of what are called brokerage firms or advisory firms, as I would rather call them, who come into this space, who actively participate in these secondary markets. Okay, as I said, this is just a sample. You have easily 25-30 large names where you can pursue your careers in this area. Then you have a set of firms who focus on pure research. Okay, so again, you may have heard of these terms. When I talk about research, there are two types of research that can be done. One is fundamental research, and the other is technical research. So you may come across a term called fundamental analysis and technical analysis. Now these are people who don't execute transactions, but they just provide research. You'll also come across a term called, these are firms who are on the sell side. Sell side means that they are the ones who offer services, research services, to other companies who want to buy their research. Okay, so these are called sell side firms who are offering research services. Now here you have a whole load of multinational corporations. In fact, you have Nomura, which is a Japanese firm, as you all probably know. There are other captive MNC KPOs. You understand KPOs? KPOs means knowledge process outsourcing, which means that a company like JP Morgan, right, or a Goldman Sachs, okay, what these guys do is they have a huge team of research analysts sitting in India who actually do research on companies in the US and the UK markets. Okay, so we are talking about research here not in the Indian market, but research of the US and the UK market firms, and they provide inputs to traders overseas. So there are a lot of firms which employ a large number of people. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, I think Goldman Sachs is located in Bangalore. JP Morgan, I think, is located in Bombay or Bangalore, I'm not too sure. But these are KPOs who also are connected to capital market research, and the reason I'm calling them captive is they typically do research only for their own firm, which means they don't sell their research to anybody else. So JP Morgan would do research for JP Morgan only. That's what's meant by captive KPOs. And last but not the least, which I think is an area which is growing and will probably be the largest recruiter over time, is the space of what is called wealth management or private banking. Now, if you read the demographics of India, right, the number of millionaires in India are only growing. I mean, people are becoming poorer, sure, but people are becoming richer as well. So now, as people become richer and richer, they obviously need somebody who can manage their money for them. And that's what is called wealth management or private banking. Now, as soon as I use the term wealth management and private banking, right, you'll come across terms like there are financial advisors, investment counselors, financial planners. The entire universe opens out to you, and the good thing is that there are a lot of banks who are actually getting into this space. So your or a Angel Broking or a Motilal Oswal, but now you can look at an HDFC Bank, an ICICI Bank, a Yes Bank, If you talk about private banking, you have a lot of the foreign banks like a Citi or a Deutsche, which actually offers private banking services. So the universe totally opens out for you. And as I said, given the demographics of India, I think this is a great area to be in. So I think all of you should seriously look at this space as well. In terms of wealth management and private banking, just to give you a understanding of the difference between the two, private banking is one step higher as compared to wealth management, which means that when I talk about wealth management, I'm talking about people who have a net worth of anywhere between maybe 15 lakhs to a crore, okay. And when I talk about private banking, right, I'm talking about people like Narayan Murthy or Azim Premji, right? So the scale becomes much higher. The kind of services they need become very different. So in fact, there are boutique private banking firms which just focus on this segment. Okay, so you have a company called ASK, which focuses only on private banking clients, and you need to have a minimum net worth to become a client of ASK. So so the range of services there are quite different. Again, extremely interesting. They need advice on art. They need advice on property. They need, of course, tax planning, because obviously they have so much money. Then they need to do what is called succession planning. Just think of Mukesh Ambani, right? If Mukesh Ambani, God forbid, passes away, right? Well, who's going to manage all that money? So there has to be a clear plan put in place in case something happens to him. So these are all services offered by private banking. Again, extremely exciting, extremely interesting area, where, as I said, it's not only restricted to firms like India Infoline and Motilal Oswal, but also the private banks and the multinational banks have got into this space. Okay. Then you have what are called asset management companies or AMCs, right? In simple parlance, they're the mutual fund houses. Now these are also extremely active and a huge set of recruiters in the capital market space. Okay, so there are at least, I think, 25 or 26 decent AMCs in India today who offer you roles in trading and, of course, in sales. So you have the Axis Mutual Fund, you have the HDFC Mutual Fund, and of course you have the ICICI Mutual Fund, the Reliance Mutual Fund, the UTI Mutual Fund. So you got a whole lot of people who manage thousands and thousands of crores of money of individuals, and they always require people with expertise in the capital markets area. All right. Now, given this landscape, right, it's obviously pretty evident that there are plenty of career opportunities. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that. It's a huge ocean, and depending on your skill sets and interests, you could get into firms which offer activities in the primary market space, as I said, in merchant banking, issue management. You could get into firms in the secondary market space, where you could get into the trading area or the sales area. If you're a kind of guy who wants to do just research, you can get into pure research firms, as I told you. And so the opportunities are abundant. Okay, so the only problem which I, whenever I interact with people aspiring to build a career in capital markets is, the guy will say, "Yaar, ye to sales ki naukri hai." Now, what is wrong with that? Okay, every job today has to have a customer interface, right? You can't go and hide in a room and say, "No, I don't want to talk to any customer." That's not possible, right? So there are roles which will have a large percentage of customer interface, and there will be roles where there is slightly limited customer interface, but customer interface is going to be there. So one thing which I recommend to all of you is to get that out of your heads. saying कि यार sales की नौकरी तो मैं नहीं करूँगा. Right? Remember, when we talk about sales, you're not talking about a salesman who's selling pens on the street, right? Yeah. So it's a lot more sophisticated than that. It's hard work, no doubt, but I think all of you should take a relook at this space. And the fact remains that the largest career opportunity remains in sales. Okay. So if I were to give you a broad thumb rule, right, for every one trader I recruit in my company, I need 20 salespeople. So the ratio is 1:20. So which is why very roughly I've given you some percentages. 85% of the jobs that will be available to you will be sales. Okay. 15% will be in research and only 5% which is really in trading. Okay, so you should be ready for that and keep that in mind. And it's not necessary that once you get into a sales role that, life is finished, right? You can make a career in sales itself, okay? And you can move into research if you exhibit those skills. Okay, so there are a lot of opportunities in sales as well. So please do take a look at it. And as I said, the fact of the matter is that the largest requirement will be in sales, followed by research and then trading. Okay. Then the problem, when I say a problem, is the nature of the area is such that the career options are as volatile as the market itself. What do I mean by that, right? The market today, the stock market today is at 6,200, right? People are talking about it's going to 6,500. Hey, if business is growing, definitely I'm going to need people. So firms will recruit, okay? But if you were to talk to any capital market firm, let's say 6 months ago, right, and you go and speak to the HR head and say, "Ki boss, aapko koi log chahiye kya?" He'll say, "Boss, I don't even know whether my business is going to survive in the next 1 month. So I'm not going to project that far." So the problem comes at times the opportunities in this area tend to get a little limited because as I said, it's purely a state of the market. So keep that in mind. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's talk about the primary markets area, right? Which is merchant banking. Now, if you were to, look at the newspapers the last 6 months, you can almost count the number of IPOs that have taken place. If I go back a year and a half also, it's barely been there. There's hardly a few IPOs that have hit the market. So now when you have very few issues that hit the market, right, why should any merchant banker go to the market and recruit people, isn't it? So only when the IPO market revives will the merchant banking firm require people. So that's one characteristic of the capital market space. It is, as I say, not recession proof, right? If the markets go up and down, the recruitment opportunities may also tend to get a little limited. The other thing which is really a Indian problem, it's not restricted to the capital markets area, is the obsession with a degree, right? So a lot of the times, recruiters don't look at whether the individual has got the necessary abilities, but they want to look at the guy's CV and say, "Ki boss, isne MBA kiya hai kya? Isne CA kiya hai kya? What are his qualifications?" That is unfortunate. It will hopefully change over time, but that still persists. So some career opportunities are restricted. So if I share that with you, merchant banking and issue management, typically you need to be an MBA or a CA to get into the space. Okay. Research, again, an MBA and CA will help, but interestingly, a lot of the KPOs, right, the MNC KPOs that I was speaking to you about, actually recruit engineers because they have a highly analytical mindset. So research is open to both the MBAs and CAs as well as engineers. And the graduates typically land up in sales roles to start with. So you will, as a graduate, start your career as a relationship manager, handling a few clients, and then depending on your abilities, you will grow in the role. When I say grow in the role, it could be in the form of geographies, it could be in the form of the type of clients you handle. But yeah, that's where the largest hiring takes place for graduates. Okay, so let's get to this is the full background, yeah, but let's get to what matters, right? So do I stand a chance of a career in this space? Okay, my answer, most certainly. But with a rider, if you play it intelligently, it's not easy to get into this space, as I told you, right? So you need to play it intelligently to get into this space. The first thing which you need to do, as when I finish my career talk, right, you need to go back and have a look at your CV, okay, and say, hey, does my CV look like a capital market CV? Is there anything in my CV which says that, okay, this guy is interested in capital markets? So it's extremely important to enhance your CV. And in India, you need to differentiate your CV from the millions, right? There are going to be thousands and thousands. The other day I was speaking to the head of research at India Infoline, guy called Amar Ambani, and he says, I get thousands and thousands of CVs every day, and I just trash them because all of them look the same. I mean, you need to have a CV where, hey, the guy, sits up and says, oh, there is something interesting here. So that is key, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that in a moment. The first, as I said, flavor your CV with CM experience. What do I mean by that? CM is capital markets, of course. What do I mean by that? Of course, if you have some work experience in this area, great. Okay. If you are a fresher, right, you must have taken subjects in this area, whether you're doing your MBA, right? If you have, even in your BCom, there could be some subjects related to capital markets. Highlight that in your CV. As simple as that, right? So just make sure that there is something out there which the recruiter can look at and say, yes, this CV has got some capital markets flavor to it. An inside tip, okay, which I must tell you, which again somebody in the industry told me, is that along with your resume, right, along with your CV, just attach a 1-page or a 1.5-page research report written by yourself. Remember, it need not be a high-tech or an in-depth thing, okay? They want to see your writing style. They want to see, this is especially if you're applying for a research role, okay? So put down, take any company, right? Do some analysis. I'm sure you must have learned some basic stuff. Even your, the newspapers would give you some of that stuff. Put down some analysis and put down some kind of a recommendation. So what this tells the recruiter is, like, this guy is really interested, 1, 2, he has taken the effort. He has taken the effort to differentiate his CV, okay, by attaching this research report. Okay, so even if the research report is 40 or 50% good, I don't care. I can sense the fact, when I say I means the recruiter can sense the fact that this guy has taken that extra effort, so I think he or she should be given a chance. And I say given a chance, definitely you'll get an interview. Okay, so try that and see if you're interested in a career in research. And finally, of course, you take on or put on your CV some job-oriented or role-oriented certifications. There is a whole range of certifications available in the market today, especially in capital markets. Okay. Again, what does this give you? Something to talk about in the interview. The guy looks at the CV and says, okay, I've done a wealth management certification. Okay, so the guy is obviously going to ask you some questions in wealth management, and because you've done this, you're able to answer some of those questions. Right, so it's a good idea to look at some job-oriented certifications in capital markets and add that to your CV. All right, so let's spend a little time on what are the certifications that are available in the market today. Okay, there are, of course, which all of you probably know, are the NCFM certifications which are offered by the NSE. Okay, there's a whole range of certifications offered by NCFM. Okay, and extremely popular. But the only problem with the NCFM certifications today, which is the feedback that we get from industry, is not rigid, right? I'm sure you guys also know that who've taken this certification, right? It's got a 95-97% of the people who write the exam clear the exam. Okay, so that's been a bit of a problem, and the industry, the feeling is that, yaar, 2 ghante padh lo, they'll clear this exam. So that is one problem, but it's extremely popular, and obviously it comes with the NSE tag, so it's well recognized by industry. The other is what are called the FLIP certifications offered by Finitiative Learning India Private Limited. Because I'm the director of this company, I think I should tell you a little bit about them as well. Now these are focused and role-oriented certifications. Okay, so you have certifications in each area of capital markets. You have certifications, of course, in other areas of banking as well. But these are focused and role-oriented certifications. And what we've done here is that the content is written by senior practitioners. So you will not find any textbook stuff here. Okay, so we've kind of taken out all the theoretical stuff and given you what I call a T20 version of a full-fledged degree. Because remember, NCFM or FLIP, we are not trying to replace any of your full-fledged degrees. We can't do that, right? Obviously, it's much better to do an MBA or a CFA or a CFP, right? But if you wish to have a work-oriented, a short-term certification on your CV, you must take a look at NCFM or FLIP, okay? So these certifications, as I said, do not replace full-fledged degrees, but of course are more practical and job-oriented, and hence a significant value add for your CV. So let's take a look at some of the certifications which are offered by NSE and FLIP, right? NCFM offers a basic module called the Equity Dealers module. This is a real foundation, basic stuff. If you want to, start off as a dealer in any of these capital market firms, then it's a good idea to do that. They also have a other set of modules on equity derivatives. They have something for the back office. So they have a series of modules focused on the equity markets. Then you have the National Institute of Securities Markets, or the NISM, okay, which offers a regulatory certification. The reason I'm saying it's regulatory is anybody who's getting into the mutual fund industry, okay, the one I spoke about, the asset management companies, anybody getting into the mutual fund industry has to clear this mutual funds distributors module. Okay, so typically what happens is you join a mutual fund and then they make you go through this exam. So if you guys have already done this exam, that's a value add on your CV. Then FLIP and NCFM have a set of co-branded certifications. I'm just giving you a couple of them here. There are 3 of them actually. The 2 of them which are directly relevant to my career talk here, one is a certification on equity research, which is extremely popular, even though I say so. And then there is a certification on issue management, that is merchant banking, that I spoke to you about. So this is again, based on the kind of role you do. It's written by somebody who's the equity research certification has been written by somebody who works for Nomura, right? So it's very practical and interesting. And then FLIP has its own set of certifications relating to treasury and capital markets. This treasury and capital market certification is for people who want to pursue a career in a bank, okay, because we cover not only equities but bonds and currencies as well. And we also have a certification on wealth management. All right. So as I said, these certifications are industry recognized, and because they are well known, okay, they actually offer a placement advantage. When I say, why do I say a placement advantage? It's not like they are giving you a guaranteed job or anything, but if you go with the certification like this to the industry, there is a possibility that your CV would get through to an interview stage. Okay, so that's the advantage of that. And both the NCFM and the FLIP certifications, as as the world moves towards a SMS generation, as somebody called it, right? The learning is also moving to a online form of learning nowadays. Okay, so the latest buzzword is e-learning. So what NCFM does is, of course, gives you a PDF document for each certification which you go through, and then whenever you're ready, you book a date and go and take the exam online. What FLIP does is, FLIP offers you a highly interactive e-learning course, and the reason I'm calling it blended is it offers faculty support, which means that in case you have any queries during the course of the session, they organize, once in 10 days, you can speak to the faculty through an audio conference and get your doubts clarified. You can send your doubts on email, and the faculty will respond within 2 working days. So there is a lot of faculty support and hand-holding, and the courses are highly interactive. It's not like reading a PDF document or a book. It's you got to do a lot of exercises. In equity research, for example, you'll actually go through evaluation of a company. So it's highly interactive. So this form of learning actually becomes very ideal for working professionals. So if you guys are working already somewhere, right, you have the flexibility to learn at your own pace. And it's not only for working professionals, even if you're studying, let's say, and you can't really take time out and go to a classroom, this kind of learning actually works well, because you can do it over weekends, in the evenings, whenever you get time. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And then whenever you're ready for the exam, you just book a date. And most of these, both NCFM and FLIP certifications, you can even take the exam on a weekend, on a Saturday or Sunday, at wherever there is a center close by, and you can go and take the exam. So there's a lot of flexibility given on these certifications. Okay, so let's think for the moment that, you guys have managed to build a CV, and which has a capital markets flavor. You have certifications, a FLIP certification or a FLIP NCFM certification or an NCFM certification, whatever it may be, okay, and you have it in relevant areas like wealth management or in issue management or in equity research. So you got all that, okay. So fingers crossed, high probability that you should at least have a CV which is different from the millions out there, and let's say you get an interview, okay, but the battle is still halfway there, right? So what do I do to crack that interview? When I look at capital markets, right, capital markets is people love it or people hate it, okay, so you need to exhibit a lot of passion and energy. And you got to stay abreast of world and domestic events. Exhibit your domain knowledge through these certifications. And then create some kind of an interview prep pack for yourself. I always say that, when I say interview prep pack, what I mean is that get your resume vetted by some senior of yours, right? Get some of your friends in industry to do a mock interview for you. Okay, subscribe to some kind of a BFS. BFS is your banking and financial services newsletter, which keeps you abreast of what's going on. So you need to prepare for an interview. You just don't walk in and hope and pray that the guy will select you, right? So exhibit passion and energy in this area. Stay abreast of world and domestic events. Exhibit your domain knowledge, and have some kind of an interview prep pack which will prepare you for the interview. So I would like to end by really saying this, that remember, it's a competitive world out there, okay, and in India, sheer population pressure, right, it's just too competitive. So you need to work hard if you want to play hard later, okay. So take the time out, take the effort, take the initiative to prepare your CV, okay, build your CV, and then once you get into this space, whether it's sales, whether it's research, whether it's trading, whether it's on the primary market side, merchant banking, debt capital markets, wealth management, right? Once you get into the space, you can move around. So make sure you actually get in there. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. And finally, just wanted to share with you and take this opportunity because Times Jobs has organized this for all of you. Flip is offering all these certifications on timesjobs.com. So it's not only certifications, as I said, restricted to capital markets. As you can see, the certifications on equity research, on treasury and capital markets, on wealth management. There are also certifications in other areas of banking if you are interested, like retail liabilities and branch banking, corporate banking. There's a very unique program on called the Smart Banker program with Finacle. Finacle is a core banking software of Infosys. So people broadly looking at a career in the banking and financial services space, take a look at some of these courses. What you see highlighted in red are the foundation courses, the ones in blue are the intermediate courses, and the ones in green are the expert courses. So depending on where you are in your career, take a look at which of these certifications will actually help you build a career in those areas. Okay. So thanks a lot for your time, and I wanted to wish you all the very best. And Lagna, I'm ready for questions now.
Thank you so much, Jai. I have received quite a lot of questions by now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out the question. Let me first, okay. This is a question from Prashant. He is asking how to approach the recruiters at mid-career level. How do we get in touch with those recruiters? Are there consultants available who could help us in these areas?
Okay. So the way to do this is as follows, right? One is that you can, obviously the way to go through it is either the route is through HR, or you could even write to the business head of that particular, because you're at a mid-career level, right? So they don't mind that. So you can write to the business head of that particular division. And a trick is, what you should do is, it's easy to find out the name of the person. Okay, so let's say the name of the person is XY, okay, or let's say Ramesh, Ramesh Sharma. Okay, so what you should do is go to the LinkedIn profile. He or she will definitely have a LinkedIn profile. Take a look at the LinkedIn profile. A lot of times you can find out which organization they worked in, and more importantly, you can get hold of their email. And a lot of times the email is always first name dot second name at --.com, right? So you can actually directly send a mail to the to this person, and they don't mind that, as I said, especially if you're mid-career. Okay, as a fresher, if you send a mail, they may get a little upset, but if you're mid-career, that's one way to do it. And other than that, of course, these online portals like Times Jobs, etc., are the only other route where you can reach out to them, because they also subscribe to these sites, which is what we are trying to do for guys like you actually, is that if you take any of these certifications, we will make sure that you get a interview with in that area by specific recruiters. So that's something which we are trying to work, when I say we, means Flip along with Times Jobs. I hope that answers your question, Prashant.
Thanks, Jai. In fact, I would like to quickly add that this is an initiative taken by Techgig.com. So yes, attendees definitely can come on Techgig.com for in terms of looking out for jobs and any other assistance, probably from industry experts. Okay, so moving on to our next question. This is a question from Prashant Singh. He's asking, where do you see the role of product managers in the hierarchy shown in your slides?
Product managers, see, the way it works is typically you will see product managers in the wealth management space. Okay, So what tends to happen is that you have, if I look at wealth management, I can break it up into three broad roles. The first is the front end pure sales role, okay, the relationship manager's role. Now, what that person's role is to go and get clients. Then you have the product manager who actually then takes over. And that person speaks to the client in terms of recommending the portfolio of investments. Okay, so he or she will do the necessary risk profiling, the financial planning of the client, and say, okay, based on this person's risk profile, 60% of his or her money should go into equities and 40% into bonds. That's the role of the product manager. In some organizations, it's also called the investment counselor. And then this moves to the research team, who then says, okay, 60% equities, okay, let's put so much in Infosys, so much in Hindustan Lever, and so much in Ranbaxy. So that's how the roles are divided. So if I look at the term level of product manager, it's a quasi-sales role, which means that you will have some customer interface, but it's not a pure sales role like that of a relationship manager. I hope that answers Prashant's question.
Thanks, Jay. Okay, the next question is from Anju. The question is it necessary to create a research paper on a company? Can it be on compliance or risk management strategies which are mandatory in capital markets?
See, when I talk about a research report and I say that you want to apply for a research job, remember what you would be doing out there is actually researching companies, okay? So when they want to look at a research report, they would like to see a research report on a company. But as I said, it need not be in-depth, okay? So a research on compliance, etc. will not work. Research on a company is what would be required, because that is what you will eventually be doing if you were to join as a research analyst.
Okay, moving on. There's a question from Raghavendra. He is asking, I have seen in many job postings that they need candidates from Tier 1 B schools rather than Tier 2 B schools as per MBAs are concerned. Why is it so?
As I told you in my earlier talk, that there is still a obsession with qualifications, and the assumption is that if the person is from a Tier 1 school, his gray cells are a little more than Tier 2. I personally don't subscribe to that opinion at all, but that is a fact, okay? So which is why what you should do is actually take some of these certifications and say, hey, okay, I'm from a Tier 2 B school, but I have done these certifications. Just try me out. So if your covering letter or your mail to the recruiter has to be a little stronger, okay, just give me a chance for an interview and I will be able to showcase my expertise. Okay, so that bit of initiative if you take, then I don't think they're going to be so fast with the Tier 1 and Tier 2.
Alright, question from Anup. He is asking how to switch into capital markets from other industries, let's say IT, with an MBA in finance, and where can one start into research?
Okay, that's a little tricky. So when you say IT and MBA in finance, I'm assuming that after your MBA in finance, you have joined an IT company. If that assumption is true, then it becomes a little difficult to get into a pure capital markets role. Okay, so the only way to stay connected to capital markets is, of course, to become a business analyst in the capital markets domain in an IT company. Okay, otherwise you just have to start afresh, which means you'll have to move into a capital markets role or an area in wealth management, okay, and then start your career. So, but if you have if you've done your IT background before your MBA, then you have no problems. If you have done your MBA in finance, whether it's from a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 B school, you can get into the capital market space. And research, as I told you, tends to be a little limited, but if you are an engineer in your graduation, it helps, because as I told you, they tend to prefer engineers because they're a little more analytical minded. So you can try your career in research, but you have to showcase that in your resume, right? Which is why I keep coming back to the fact that your CV has to have that flavor. So if you can take the the FLIP NCFM certification in equity research and showcase that, yeah, that's one way to do it. Or as I said, submit a research report. That's the other way to do it. But if you have already spent maybe a few years in IT, moving into a pure capital markets career, difficult.
All
Okay,
right.
next.
The next question is from Dhruv. He has done his MBA, and his question is, I'm working in sales in insurance industry. Can I get in? Can I get into research in capital markets?
Dhruv, most certainly you can. Now here again, it's similar to what I mentioned in my previous reply, that everybody's, as I said, 85% of the jobs out there are in sales. So there's a high probability you land up in sales. So you have to showcase your research skills, right? So what you need to do is, as I said, take one of these equity research certifications. Okay, try and prepare a research report. Okay, and then send it to your potential recruiters and say that I've done my bit in sales. I understand the market. Okay, I'm now looking to pursue a career in research. And there is a chance that you will get in as well, because your experience would carry some weight in this area, but you need to showcase that research flavor in your CV, either through these certifications or by sending a research report.
All right. Thanks for that. The next question is from Arun. He's asking, how is the FLIP certification relevant in regards to placements?
Yeah, I mentioned that along the way, right? One is, as I said, the two certifications that I spoke about are co-branded with NCFM, one on equity research and the other is on merchant banking and issue management. And then we have a certification on wealth management. I've only highlighted those because it's relevant to capital markets. So the wealth management certification, for example, actually organizations guarantee interviews for people who come FLIP certified in wealth management. Okay, so that's one thing going for you there. The other is that the FLIP certification, what we've done is that we've actually entered into contracts with leading banks. And the contract says that anybody who comes FLIP certified will be given weightage in the recruitment process. So we actually offer you a service where these guys will definitely take a look at your CV. Okay, so there are different levels of involvement. One is they will take a look at your CV. If they have an opening, they'll call you for an interview. And there are certain organizations which actually guarantee interviews if you are certified in some of these areas. So that's the advantage of, that's the placement advantage you get with the FLIP certification.
Okay, question from Mansi. She's asking, which form of certificate courses will you recommend for a CA CFA level 3 fresher candidate?
Okay. See, if you're a CA or a CFA and want to pursue something in the capital market side, the best place obviously is research, because the one skill which is required in research is comfort with financial statements. So there are a lot of people who join as equity research analysts, credit analysts. They also join rating companies like CRISIL. So research should be a good area for you. So the certification that I would recommend obviously is the equity research certification, which is offered by FLIP NCFM. The other area, if you're a little more sales oriented, okay, because I don't know what kind of person you are, but if you're a little more sales oriented and you're comfortable talking to people and you don't want to get into a pure research role, then the area to look at is wealth management, or you can even look at the treasury and capital markets area in banks, because if you're a qualified chartered accountant, you have a good chance of getting in there. So there is a FLIP certification on treasury and capital markets, which covers equities, bonds and currencies, and that's pretty popular with banks. I mean, once you clear that certification, you could try any of these banks, an HDFC, a Yes Bank, an ICICI, all these places for a role again, typically in the treasury sales side, that's where you get. So, so to summarize, if you are looking at a research role, equity research. If you are looking at more of front-ended role, then look at wealth management or the treasury and capital market certification.
Another question from Prashant. He is asking, are there contract opportunities for equity research or margin banking roles?
When you say contract opportunities, we mean that not permanent employees? No. It's typically the sales role which is more available on contract. A lot of times what happens is that a lot of these asset management companies have people on their payrolls, not on their payrolls but on contract. I know for sure the Axis Mutual Fund has got a large sales staff which is not on the Axis Mutual Fund payrolls. So the contract employees tend to be more on the sales side, not so much on the, definitely not on the research and the merchant banking side.
Lokesh is asking, sir, I have completed my PG with Master in Finance and Control. It is core finance course. Do I need any certification for this job? I want to make my career in equity research.
Okay. So this is that when you say MFC from Delhi University, right? I think that's what you mean. Okay. So yeah, as I said, it always helps, right? I mean, you have a master's degree in finance and control, as you say, okay, but if you still want to differentiate your CV, you need to add on. You need to add on, right? But that's what I keep telling people. Even if you're from an IM, right? You know, there's so many CVs out there, so you have to make a differentiator. So if you're very, very keen on research, then do this equity research certification. That's going to help you. You have to have something on your CV which will make a difference.
Next question is from Ronu Joy. He's asking, I have worked for around 12 years in pre-sales and implementation of software related to RMS and trading. What role can I take up in the capital markets?
Joy, 12 years is a long time, so it's very difficult for you to switch careers now, okay? I don't think it would be a great idea, because even if you do, you will not get weightage, and you know, you will also have an age barrier. So the best bet for you is to, if you're keen on this field, is to really move in as a business analyst in the treasury and capital market space. You know, most IT companies have, you know, a banking vertical and a capital markets vertical, because that's really the two areas where a lot of technology spend takes place. So that's your best bet at this stage of your career, because I would want to recommend that, you know, you drop all this that you've done for the past 12 years and you know, try and move into a capital markets career, which is not going to be easy, and it's you know, you will not get the recognition or the value of your 12 years.
All right, maybe we can take up two questions. Yeah, question from Arun. He's asking, I'm planning to do my FRM and I have 4 years of work experience in IT MNC and currently completing my PGDM finance. I wanted to know what is the scope of risk management. What is the scope in risk management field? I think that's what he's asking. Okay,
risk management is a great field. Okay, it's growing, and you know, I'm sure you heard of, you're doing your FRM, you've heard of things like Basel norms, right? So Basel 3 is going to get implemented in India, it's getting implemented globally. So and you know, and after the economic crisis, risk is like you know, a buzzword, and it's a great area to be in. Okay, so FRM, again, a great qualification. It's a tough one. Okay, people, there are two of them which people tend to take. One is FRM and the other is PRMIA, or Premia as it's called. So you can choose either one. If you already started FRM, that's fine. So it's a tough certification. From a career perspective, yes, risk is a good area. The only thing you must remember is risk is not for people who are not mathematically or statistically minded. So right, so if standard deviation traumatizes you, then pal, risk is not the PSV. Otherwise, in terms of a career prospect, it's good.
Okay, one last question, Jay, for today. This question is from Jasjeet. The
Sure.
question is, what is your understanding on getting into product side in treasury teams for commodity and currency professionals in India?
Okay. Now, see, currencies and commodities, currency especially, it's a new area. When I say new area, means currencies on the exchange side. Okay, currencies have been traded for a long time by banks on the OTC side, but currency derivatives are recently introduced in exchanges. And commodities is also relatively, when I say relatively new, means there are not too many people who know too much about it. And in terms of a career, again a good area. A lot of capital market firms are looking to get into this space. They are already offering currencies and commodity services. So in terms of when you say on the product side, right, I don't know exactly what you mean. So I'm going to just give you a broad brush kind of an answer where I'm telling you that currencies and commodities are a new area, and a lot of capital market firms, okay, are looking at people who have expertise in this area. There's a lot of people who have expertise in equities, but there are very few people who have expertise in currencies and commodities. So if you can showcase some kind of a certification in this area, right, and combine it with some kind of wealth management, because a lot of the people in currencies and commodities are your high net worth individuals who participate. So if you can do, if you can showcase your knowledge in wealth management and in currencies and commodities, then I think you're in an interesting space.
All right, with that we come to the end of.
Are we done?
Yes, done in the sense we do have a lot of questions, but probably you'll have to take the questions up offline. We can share
Yeah.
them with you either today or on Monday first half, and you could take them up with the attendees.
Yeah, that'll be good.
But thank you so much, Jay, for taking time out today and giving this really informative presentation. For all the attendees, please log on to techgig.com on Monday to get the recorded version of today's webinar. And also feel free to email us with all the suggestions or feedback in terms of if you could improve the quality of the webinar, kind of topics that you guys must be looking for. Please feel free to email all that to us. Thank you once again, Jay. Thanks, Rahul, for joining in, and thank you for all the support for today's session.
All right. Thanks a lot, people. All the best. Bye-bye.